We've got another episode here with what I think are always folks that bring value to the people who I think listen to this podcast, definitely to the people who are around me in my life. And he's Thomas Blottenberger. And what he does is, yes, he helps people manage their money, but you hear that a lot. You hear about a lot of people who do that, just want to sell you services. That's cool. That's a great business. But here's why he's here. It's because he's a mindset coach for men who want to stop the fights that are in their life surrounded by money. He said something interesting to me, and it's money's one, but there's other things that people fight about. I think if you conquer this, you might be able to conquer all the other ones. Thomas, thanks for being here. Let's jump in right away. And I want to hear about your journey. Why do you do what you do? What got you here?
Yeah, thanks for having me. Man, well, it's a long journey. Let me see if I can simplify as much as possible. I got into the financial world 15 years ago, and I got in because I watched what happened with my family. And I told this story a lot, so I'm going to tell the story, and then I'm going to tell what I've unpacked is actually, I think, more underneath the surface of that. I've told the story that I watched my family go through some financial difficulties with my grandfather. He went into surgery that didn't go well. He was in a coma for 9 months and then he passed away. And I got to watch all the turmoil that happened while that was going down. And I thought, well, this is a place that I can help people. And that's true, but there was also a part where I thought my whole life, and I think as men, this is a big thing for us, is we're always expected to some degree to perform, to do things, right? To have success, to be effective, right? And so underneath that, there was maybe they'll be proud of me now if I'm successful with this, right? Like, am I a good boy if I'm really successful with this? And so I told myself the altruistic story, and I told the other people the altruistic story of I started doing this because I wanted to make a difference for others. But I think deep down it was really I want to finally be worthy of accolade. I want to finally be worthy of knowing that people are proud of me. And I think that's a lot of how a lot of us, particularly men, operate. And then we're not really allowed to talk about that. So, oh, you muted yourself, Joel, so I don't know.
Sorry about that. I didn't
Welcome
want to
back.
breathe. I don't want to breathe too heavy. Where would that need come from for you as a kid? Or maybe we all have that need.
I think, well, I think it's different for everybody, but there's definitely a point in life, I think, where as a kid, something happens where you don't feel safe. And it's usually a function of you do something and all of a sudden, your parents are upset or something like drastic happens and you make up that you're not safe and therefore you need to protect yourself to survive. And people handle that in totally different ways. I can pinpoint mine. I was like 7 or 8 years old. I don't remember how old particularly, but I remember it was single digits, and I remember what happened. So, my dad was a really successful real estate guy, and we were doing really well. I was an only child. I had my own room. I had all the toys I wanted. Like I was kind of living high on the hog kind of deal. And I was a kid. I didn't know any better. I just was very happy with what was going on. And then I found out later, my dad made a really bad investment, lost a lot of money at the same time the real estate market was down. And we went from, this house where I had my own room and my own space to now I'm sharing a space with my parents. We're staying at my grandparents' place, had to get rid of a lot of the stuff. And, I don't know what's happening. So I asked. And my parents kind of alluded to it because there's some shame and guilt, around life looking like that. So they said something to the effect of, well, we made a bad decision with money, and so we need to downsize and spend less and shift things around. And they said, but this is going to be really good for you because you need to learn how to be less spoiled and more appreciative. And I took that, I mean, as an adult saying that to a kid, it kind of makes sense. But as a kid, I took that to mean I'm not good enough. I'm not safe. I need to perform to be loved, which means being nice and not being spoiled or whatever, I interpret that to be. And then particularly around money, what I made it mean was you better use it while you got it or someone can take it from you.
So does that mean, did you interpret that as you got to get it and spend it?
Yeah. Because
Where'd that,
if you don't get it and you don't spend it, and you don't enjoy it, someone else is going to take it from you.
so where'd that lead you to?
Oh, it led me to being the most hypocritical financial advisor you could possibly imagine. I was the guy telling you how to, like, I book smart wise. I know a ton of shit, but actually living that was a totally different story. So, teaching people how to set up mortgages when I couldn't afford to own a place and was just renting, teaching people how to invest or introducing them to our investment specialist at the firm when I didn't have any money to invest, talking about budgeting when I didn't even look at where my money was going, right? It was a do what I say, not what I do kind of
At this point, were
situation.
you married?
I was married. I got married to my first wife, and she was a perfect mirror of where I was at because what she would do is spend money and then, or she'd have a job and then she'd just randomly quit it. And that would throw our finances into chaos. And when I would talk about it, she'd go, "Oh, you sound like my abusive ex who would control me around money." And so there was this two-sided part of the equation where on one side, well, I need to not be spoiled. I need to be liked. I don't want to, be like her ex that's trying to control her. And then on the other side was total resentment of this, I don't know how clean this podcast is, but this
Say whatever you
B,
want.
okay, this bitch spending my money and I can't spend it because she's spending it before I'm spending it. So she's taking from me. It was a hell of a thing, man.
Not
Like
much
my 20s
teamwork
were
there.
wild.
Yeah. You know, it's interesting. We've had on the podcast Dr. Robert Glover, no more Mr. Nice Guy. He sold
Oh
millions of
yeah,
books on this topic. And it sounds like you were trapped in a little bit of that, but it's surrounded by money.
100%. I think money is so the reason it works that I went into money or dealing with money, finances, and the reason that works in the coaching space is because I can't think of another thing that's as effective as a mirror to who you are as a person because money literally threads through every decision we make as humans, at least in this current era, right? There's not a decision I can think of that isn't in some way directly or indirectly impacted by money in this current life. And
Yeah,
so the
we use
way
it
I
to
show
measure
up around
everything.
money,
Right?
yes,
We use it to measure everything, move everything. It's where we put our value, how we trade. You're right.
yeah.
So what
And
happened?
the stories we tell ourselves around it, like how much money I have, what does that mean? What's going on with the government and even things like that, those kinds of conversations you can pinpoint back to what's going on internally that has me even focused on that. There's people that don't give a crap about what's going on with the government and don't care about what's going on with crypto or fiat currency, but there are people that do. So, what's going on for them? You could say, oh, well, they're more awake, maybe, but I'd have it consider that there's a different story, a different narrative that's being mirrored by seeing those things where other people aren't seeing them.
Yeah. It makes sense. Your life experience up to this point could lead you to those actions of checking the stock market every minute or your coin values and that sort of thing, and what the government's deciding. You're absolutely right.
Yeah.
So, when did things start changing around? You were married previously. It sounds like it did
Hmm.
not work out. Then what started happening?
No, I think it was 2017. I did a program called Landmark,
Oh,
and it
yeah.
was a self-development program, and it started to
Landmark
crack the,
Forum.
yeah, it started to, there's a multitude of those types of programs that do like, I forget what they call it, like it's where it's a one-to-many kind of a deal, and it's like a big forum learning experience, right?
That's a big
Uh,
seminar.
yeah, I think the most important thing I got out of that was the realization that here's how I'd frame it. What I got from that, and it didn't actually change any of my actions. I became kind of more of an asshole from that. But because then I got to be right about everything because now I understood more than other people. Oh, if only you did the self-development. Here's an example of an actual conversation with my current wife. If only you did the self-development work that I do, then our relationship would be better. It's your fault for not doing the work that I'm doing because I'm totally not in control. I can't do anything about our relationship being the only fuck it's bullshit. Right? But it was stuff like that. And there's a lot of self-development stuff to teach stuff like that. But what it really cracked the code on was this realization of I'm not, I don't have to be the way I am. I just wound up with everything that happened in my life with all these programs. It's like a computer, right? This is a computer. And it's like I wound up downloading all these programs that at the moment were awesome, but now don't fit the bill. They don't mesh with what I actually want in my life and what life currently looks like. But if I'm not aware my brain's like a computer and that those programs can be shifted, then I'm just stuck with them and I keep adding and adding and adding and they don't work and eventually, well, you can't, throw away this computer. But I guess technically some people do, right? I think that's part of the reason suicide rates are so high these days. Is-
So what changed? Okay, so I see where you're at there. You're doing some of the work, you're going to these
yeah.
programs, you're learning. When did it start to click? When did you put it in total action where you took over and started making a better relationship?
Yeah. Probably in the last couple of years, honestly. And even in that, there's still I don't. Gandhi said, "A man sits at the center of a circle that has no circumference." So, I'm doing better than I ever have, but I know that there's a lot more to uncover. I think the major difference is I'm not. I think the major difference is it's actually getting put into action versus just being talked about, right? Like so, like for example, self-development. Uh, you discover in most self-development programs, most of them, that the way you see the world isn't the only way to see the world. Cool. But then if you still act like that's the only way to see the world, and you're still an asshole to your wife, and you're still, yelling at the kids, and you're still, bickering with business partners and complaining about stuff, then you don't actually know that that's true. You're not experiencing your life that way. So from 2017 to like 2023, most of that time frame was, oh, I know all this stuff, kind of like I knew all the finance stuff, but wasn't doing anything about it, wasn't actually implementing it. So it's probably really only in the last couple of years I've figured out how to put it all together and actually start to act out of what I'm learning or what I learned, and then discovered I'm decently good at teaching it. So
And
started
what
to
did
act,
you
get
start to put
results.
into, what are the actions that you started to take to make a difference? And what was the result? What came out from it?
I think probably the biggest action I took um, was locating everything that's going on with me. If there's anger, it's not at someone else. It's at something I'm seeing reflected by that person. If I'm complaining, it's because I'm acting like I don't have any control. So instead of complain, look at what I'm complaining at and then see what action that I can actually take instead of complaining. It's stuff like that that's really made the biggest difference. Um, are you asking for more specifics? Because I can give
Yeah,
you more
like what
specifics.
else? Like, give me an example. Before something would have been how with your wife, and then after you started making
Totally.
changes, how would you have
Yeah.
reacted differently?
Okay. So total great example. I got some great ones. Like I'll flush out the bones in my closet. So 2018, we buy a house in Arizona, and it's like Thanksgiving time because it was Black Friday. We got some awesome deals. So we're waiting for stuff to get delivered. Bought some stuff on Black Friday, hung up a TV, had a makeshift couch, and then a lazy boy that I bought. I'm sitting on the lazy boy. She's watching, or we're watching a show. She's sitting on the couch. About partway through the show, I get a tap on the shoulder, and she goes, "Hey, you're falling asleep. Can we just watch this later? I want to watch it with you." And I go, "No, no, I'm not falling asleep. Like, I was just resting for a second. Like, I'm fine." So the next thing I know, TV's off. She's tapping my shoulder again. She goes, "Hey, you fell asleep. Like, come on, let's just watch it later. Like, it's totally fine. We'll just watch it later." And normal, maybe person or operating in a different frame, different program, would have heard that as, "Oh, wow, she's really sweet and loving, and she wants to spend time with me." I heard it like, "See, look, you never listen to me. You never do what I ask you to do." And so it turned into this huge fight. And of course, it turned into a huge fight because I'm being an asshole going, "You don't listen to me. See, look, I told you to leave the TV on. You didn't leave the TV on. What's going on?" And she's like, I'm trying to be nice. Stop being an asshole." See, look, you can never apologize for the things that you do. Like women take no accountability. This is right. Da, 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 da. That's
Wow.
yeah, that's
Wow.
like the craziest example, but I tell it because, that's how fucked up our brains can be sometimes. And if we don't ever look at our own operating system, we think everybody else is the problem, you'll never discover that. And that's how messed up I was. I was constantly looking for evidence that I wasn't listened to, that I wasn't respected. And the reason is because I was constantly performing, trying to earn love.
Wow. So yeah, I guess a crook believes that everybody's a crook, right?
Uh-huh.
That's where they come from. A liar, I've heard people tell me, "Oh, that guy's lying." I'm like, "No, he's not." But oh, the guy who said that's a liar, so he just
Yep.
assumes that everybody's
Yep. The
like him. So
cheater is
there's,
always looking to see if the other person's cheating. Yep. It's
yeah,
always the case.
that's interesting. So
This is where I
the
say
work,
people are mirrors, right? And money is
yeah.
a very good awakening tool to see the mirror.
So how do you teach people about money? First of all, is this the program they signed up for? How does it work?
Oh, I lost you just a little bit. Try that one more time.
So how do you teach people about money? Is this a program that they signed up for?
Yeah, I currently do it on a one-on-one basis, but I'm looking to expand it into like the one-on-one's been me making sure that it actually is a viable concept that makes a difference. But I'm looking to expand it into a group coaching. I'm currently group coaching other advisors to have discover this for themselves and then to actually be able to incorporate it in how they support and teach clients. That's been going swimmingly. Like, again, most advisors have a lot of head trash. Everybody has head trash, but advisors in particular, anybody who deals with money is generally going to have some of the worst head trash.
Because they got into it because something was there from their childhood, maybe, right?
Yeah. Usually subconsciously or even the idea, like, again, I'm a big fan of planning. I think it's important to be intentional with what you do, but there's a complete difference between planning and intentionality and control or perceived control. For example, budgeting. Okay, it's really important. There's value to becoming aware of what you're doing currently. Whoa, like doing an audit of your spending. Whoa, I didn't know I was spending that much on subscriptions. I didn't know I was spending that much on XYZ. But the problem with the financial world is the next thing it'll teach you is to go into control mode and to try to make every single variable fixed. Okay, I'm gonna take the average of the last 30 days and okay, I'm only gonna spend $478.67 on groceries this month. Granted, there's sales that change all the time and the needs of my family change all the time, but I'm gonna try to now control this and have this spending look exactly like that. It's the same thing across the board. Um, okay, I don't have any plan for my life. I don't know what's going on with my finances at all. Okay, well, let's take a look and get an inventory of where you currently are, what's actually happening. And then the jump to control. All right, so if we do this for the next 30 years and you have this rate of return of 7.86%, then you're going to have this kind of wealth. It's like, it's just the other side of the coin, right? You can't control life. You don't even know if you walk out to the door today if you're going to come back alive. Like, there's risk in everything.
So
The
do you
importance is
advise to
to,
set a sort of general standard and wish and work toward it, but give yourself that flexibility?
well, I'll tell you the one thing I've noticed in finance is most people don't even know what they want. All they know is what they don't want and they're trying to avoid. So like a financial advisor walks into a meeting, this used to be me, and I go, so what are your goals? Almost always what people will tell you, or what do you want? Almost always people will tell you what they don't want, right? What do you want? Well, I don't want to go broke, and I don't want my kids to, be destitute, and I don't want it where if my wife leaves me, she can take my money, and I don't want it where I'm paying tons of taxes. Okay, cool. What is it that you want, right? And so the biggest problem with planning in general in finance is most people are playing not to lose. Most people are playing life not to lose. And there's a different game when you're playing it to win, right? There's a different mindset of strategy between I don't want to be broke and I want to be wealthy. And most
Yeah,
people will go into those kind of meetings, go, I just don't want to go broke.
very different approach. I mean, that'll keep you very small minded and holding on to everything, maybe under your mattress.
Yeah, money is meant as an energetic. This is one of the things I got really clear on is what money is so cool as a tool is an energy. Like it flows with our energy, right? It's not designed to sit there and not do anything. It's designed to move, ebb and flow, to grow, to expand, to shrink as you do things, to multiply, right? And what we try to do generally in the financial world and the average person tries to do is constipate it. They create money a financial constipation where they try to like just don't go anywhere. But that's not how it works. It's got to go somewhere, right? So it either goes to things that are going to grow and build and invest and expand. It's going to go to he's going to leave sometimes to try new ventures, to go to schooling, to develop a skill to that might not work out, but that's the risk of life. Like that's what it's supposed to be for. And we
Yeah,
watch people try to control and just the way they try to control their lives. And I'm not saying, again, I want to be clear, it's important to assert dominion. But if we're looking at what do you assert dominion over, it's not the world, it's you. The more you deal with yourself and control yourself, the more you're at peace with whatever happens in the world. The more I'm not at peace and I'm not in control of myself, the more I give a shit about what goes on in the world. That's why a certain political demographic gives so much of a care about, climate is because their own personal worlds are generally fucked.
mm, that makes sense. So
Yeah.
let's talk about, you said that a
Now, not
lot
to
of
get
these.
political, but the point is you start here, right?
Yeah, it's with you, of course. Before people look at national news, I would look at local news, but I don't watch any of them
Yeah.
because I'm worried about me and my family.
Yes.
This is my world. This is my news. I really don't care what's happening in
Yes.
the world enough to sit there for 3 hours and stress over it. But so,
Well, there is a example of what we're talking about here, right? There's a difference between, and this is where most people get themselves stuck. There's a difference between awareness. I'm aware of what's going on compared to control. I can be aware, and I think you're in this category. I can be aware geopolitically or in the world of what's going on without sitting on my chair in front of the TV for 2 hours complaining about what people are choosing to do. Oh, I can't believe they're choosing to put that bill through, or oh my gosh, like if I was the president, I would do X, Y, Z. It's like, and I get it, it's very human. But that's the difference. We immediately go from awareness, for the most part, we're asleep. And then we go from when we do wake up, we go immediately from awareness to try to control,
yeah, I
which
learned that
doesn't
lesson.
generally work. And then we go back to sleep.
Yeah, yeah, we're dead. I learned that lesson years ago. I used to watch the news. My degree was in international relations, which is like political science, but on a global level. So I have an understanding of geopolitics
Hmm.
and geography and all of these things. But that's it. I realized that it brought me nothing to focus on everything outside. But here's what I want to talk about now. So that perspective on money and a lot of things comes from potentially childhood traumas, not to over glamorize
Yeah.
that. It's a common word,
I
but
mean,
things that
yeah.
happened in the
Well,
past.
what I decided was traumatic. So this is a really important distinction. I wasn't a victim of anything. It was what I, in my operating system at that time, tried to survive. So it's a trauma in the sense that I carried it on and still operated in life like that was true.
Yeah, your reaction to it is what did that. So
Exactly.
you are a husband and a father. You have a young daughter, 3 years old, and potentially more kids in the future. What will you do and what will you teach? Because a lot of times I talk to people and they know nothing about money. I was fortunate to
Mhm.
be brought up in poverty with a dad that told me about money. He said, "We don't have it. We got to earn it. We got to make it." And we came here to this country when I was a kid and started from the bottom and built some stuff. My parents never did. They stayed pretty poor, but they paid off their house and they got
Yeah.
ahead as best they could with the little income they made. But I had to learn about money. My dad told me once, he says, "Look at this. They give you a credit card in this country and then they charge you 20% interest. Don't ever do that." So those are the
Yeah.
lessons. I did learn a lot from that. I've never paid credit card interest. I haven't financed things except for houses. So what will you do differently with your kids?
Yeah. So I think it's a good point in what you're saying. The one of the most important things I've learned that I'd probably share with other people is there's multiple pathways to get to the top of the mountain. right? Like you could never ever get debt and you could get to whatever the top of the mountain is for you. You could file bankruptcy 3 times and then become a billionaire, right? Like there's so many pathways. The most important thing that I've seen is to enjoy the ride and to actually enjoy the experience. So another way to say that is a lot of people think money is what makes them. It's kind of like this, okay, if I do enough, then I'll have enough, then I'll finally be enough, right? The be do have, or do have be. Most people have talked about that before, but it's in money, there's no other place that it shows up as drastically, right? I'm going to do X, Y, Z so I can eventually have the houses, have the car, have this, have the trips, have that, and then I'll finally be good enough. And I think the biggest lesson I want my daughter to learn is the bank account is not a replacement for her presence. If it's a small bank account, but she's present fully in her family with her kids, with the people that are matter to her, that's more important than a giant bank account where she's not available.
For sure. Yeah, that's fantastic. Okay, I want to do two more things, and obviously each one can branch into many more. But before I want to selfishly, I have to do this because I haven't done it once. You're the first one. Instead of inserting a little thing and say, "Hey guys,
Uh-huh.
I've got this program," I'm going to say it real quick. So bear with me for 30 seconds.
Do it, do
I,
it.
for those who have been watching my podcast for the last, I don't know, year and a half or so, and wondering why I even do this, I do it for fun because I want to meet great people. But one of the things that I do, I sold my company, I retired young, is I have a 31-day challenge for men. I run the men's side. My wife, who's an amazing cancer survivor and a bunch of other awesome things, ultra marathoner and all this stuff, she runs the women's side. And that's at 31dailychallenges.com. The number three, the number one, dailychallenges.com. A couple things. You go down there and it'll say start the challenge and or the men's challenge or women's and look into that. My wife has a 31-day program called It's My Turn. And I have 31 days to become a better man and next level man. The promise on that is it's $200. If it doesn't change your life and you actually did the effort, you get the $200 back. I've had over 700 guys at this point, the time of this recording, do it. And one man has asked me for his money back and he got it the day he asked me for it. So I really don't think he gave much of an effort, but that's the exception I made for that first guy. If you're interested, check it out, 31dailychallenges.com. Thomas, I would like to,
Sounds like such a
again,
good program, by the way.
it is. I'd love to have you in it. Um, I have four kids, my wife and I. We've been married 23
Yeah.
years. We believe that we've instilled great values in them in all aspects. We've done our best. We really believe that we've got, I don't know, maybe we're nines as parents because it's our life. It's what we
Yeah.
really want to do is bring up amazing kids. But we do focus about money. We taught them how to sell chocolates when they were little. And my
Hmm.
18-year-old got the $30,000 in the bank before high school, before graduating high school, and bought his own car cash, pays all his expenses. They work. So I want advice for my 18 and 20-year-old. Those are my two oldest ones. They're both young men. They work hard and they do pretty well financially for their ages.
Hmm.
Um, what tactical things you said earlier about, have a great life and family around you and the things that most matter. But money wise, what advice
Yeah.
would you give young guys like that? What should they start doing?
It's a good question. Well, I'll tell you, the initial thing I would say of what not to do is the mainstream advice of locking your money up. What people are taught to do, almost everybody is taught when you get out of school or when you're working now. First thing you do is you pay off all the debts you have, and the second thing that you do is you lock your money away in retirement accounts. I'm not a fan of those things because I have no idea and you have no idea what life's going to look like, right? So flexibility in life to navigate what goes on is always the most important thing you could possibly do. So money in a non-retirement investment account has the same ability to grow like a retirement account, but instead of being locked away where you don't have access to it or there's stipulations and rules around how much you can put in and how you get access to it, you can put as much as you want whenever you want, right? That's probably a really good emergency fund, of course, but that's probably a really good second step as an interim. What's also cool about a non-retirement investment account, if you build it to the limit or the amounts that are required, which every bank has a different requirement, you can actually treat it like a home, where like a home you can do a home equity line of credit. I do that same thing on an investment account. It's called a securities-based line of credit. And that becomes a really powerful tool when I'm looking to, again, create flexibility. If I want to use my money and to buy something or invest in a business or do something and the markets are down, I can use my line of credit instead of damaging the principal on the investment account. Investment account comes back up and has growth, I can use the investment account to pay off the line of credit. So it's one of the most flexible, least utilized tools that are in the financial world because everybody's talking about building retirement accounts first or doing something safe like insurance policies. I'm not against insurance policies. I just don't think that most people need to have, like, most people, why would they do an insurance policy? Particularly one that's deemed an investment strategy.
A whole
Simply,
life.
yeah. Well, so again, those things, a whole life, universal life, equity index, blah, 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 blah. I used to sell those things. They all have, they're good features. There's good reasons to own them in certain situations. But because salespeople are incentivized by commissions, it becomes something that's sold in every situation. And the reality is that most people, if they weren't afraid of markets and actually understood capitalism and they understood how returns work in markets and why, unless the whole system collapses, we don't have to worry about losing all of your money when done right. I don't think that they would do it. I think most people do those kinds of things because they're scared and they don't know the alternatives.
Yeah. One,
And
you
that works
reminded
really
me.
well when you're a commission-based insurance person, or when you're a commission-based person and you get to operate on taking, what people's fears are, like jackpot.
Oh, yeah. Huge. You know, there was a sales guy, one of these guys years ago, who sold me an annuity when I was like 34,
Yeah,
maybe, right? And I was making great money and I was investing in other things too, but he's like, no, 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 you need this. And he convinced me because he knew way more than I do. And here's the crazy part. About 2 years later, he came to me and said, Joel, I've got this way better annuity. So what we're going to do is we're going to roll it out of this one, close it, and do
mm,
that. And thank God that I started looking at the paperwork before I did it. And I was going to get dinged for thousands of dollars for closing
yeah,
that one.
surrender
And he
charge.
says, no, 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 but we pay $1,000 for you to get out of this. And then I go, okay, let me look into it some more. And I found that I was going to lose many thousands. And so I brought it
Yeah,
up to him and we had a phone call and he said, well, let me check this out. Let me look. And then later he goes, oh, you're right. You're right. But he was going to let me spend, I don't
yeah,
know, $5,000 penalty to get out so I could save 1,000 and he could make who knows how much. The guy didn't care.
yeah,
He really didn't care. He would have
yeah.
known that, right? He should have known it.
No, I will tell you, being a financial advisor that was predominantly insurance for the first 8 years of my career, um, you'd be lucky to find one that reads the contract. Yeah. That actually, for anybody listening, if you were considering an insurance purchase, what you should do, this is like if I were to give it like any flat advice when it comes to this kind of a thing, request a specimen policy contract and then look at it and ask them if they've read it. If they've read it, then ask them if they say, "Oh yeah, I've read it," then ask them things from the specimen contract. If they haven't, that should definitely be a no-brainer. Why am I working with you?
Yeah.
If they have read it and you ask the questions and they can't answer it, as in other words, they don't understand the contract of the thing they're selling you, then you probably shouldn't work with them. And that would eliminate 90% of the people you talk to in the insurance world.
Wow. That's great advice. All right. Any other blanket advice? I know blanket advice is difficult because you don't know the position of the person,
Yes.
but the average person who's out there, what you've seen in this world, what other general blanket advice is there that could suit a lot of people?
In the financial world or
Yeah.
the other side? Yeah, the financial world. Well, I guess it's kind of both, right? Is I think one of the most important things is not to make decisions out of fear. And so when you are fearful, first off, notice that, right? Because almost all bad decisions come out of reacting to fear. the other thing, sometimes just being able to sit in the fear, like markets are going down, you're having a moment, like just being able to like create some distance between the fear and the impulse to react, right? And then on the other side also is be wary of people that want to take advantage of your fear. And you can tell the difference. Like I want to compel in both the financial world and the coaching world, I want to compel people to take powerful actions. But I'm not going to use fear tactics. Like if you don't work with me on this side, you're going to keep fighting with your wife and you're not going to end those money fights at home and you're probably going to get divorced. Or on the other side, right? Like, well, if you don't work with me, you're probably going to lose all your money. And if you don't do this strategy, like you're going to like become destitute. And there are, and that's a drastic example, but there are coaches that act like if you don't work with them, that your life's not going to work. And there are financial people that act like if you don't work with them, that your life's not going to work. And your life's going to be fine. It's going to be whatever it's going to be. There's versions of it that are more powerful. My commitment in the financial world and in the coaching world is to be that space of possible elevation. But I'm never going to use fear tactics to have that happen.
Good,
So
good.
that's
If
probably the
someone
most
wants,
important thing because that's most of the industry is fear-based tactics. You
yeah,
worried about losing your entire retirement? Come to this annuity seminar. Blah blah blah.
yeah. Yeah, it definitely gets that fear. I was running a race once in a park with all trails, and I wanted to catch the people in front of me, but the motivation wasn't enough. I couldn't catch them. But
Mm,
I heard footsteps behind me, and that fear of being caught really kept me from being
yep.
caught. Right. So fear is more powerful than on our brain
Hmm.
because we want to survive, and that fear is going to kill us, is what we think. So that
Bingo.
makes sense. So Thomas, if somebody wants to talk to you about your coaching or anything else, one on one, how could they get a hold of you?
And probably the best way is Instagram. I'm on the gram these days. So my handle is at Mr. Blottenberger, and they can reach out to me there. My email address, I also accept emails. Super, hip these days with the emails. And that's Thomas at theriskreward.agency.com. So Thomas at theriskreward.agency.com.
And if you're listening on Spotify or iTunes or any of those, he made a sarcastic face about the email. The email's
Yes.
not new for
Yeah.
him, I hope. All
Yeah,
right.
I'm basically willing to talk to anybody. I mean, the reality is one of the things I've been not wrestling with, but it's an inquiry that's been going on right now, which is who am I? And a lot of times uh, people answer who they are as a function of the things that are happening in their lives. So, like, I am a business owner. Well, why would you answer it that way? Because you own a business, right? So it's externally driven. So I've just been really looking at that and trying to figure out, well, okay, if it's going to be externally driven to some degree, what do I want who I am to be? One of the things of who I want who I am to be is that just by having a conversation with me, I leave someone in a more hopeful, more powerful state of possibility than they were before the conversation. And so from that perspective, I really am willing to talk to anybody. I don't care if business comes and goes. That's really not the motivator. The motivator is I want to raise the level of vibration for people as I've been doing it for myself and as people have supported me in that. So,
Excellent. That's a great way to live your life. Roughly in about 50 years, you and I might not be on this planet anymore. And
yeah.
it's nice to at least know that we have made an impact on somebody because there will be somebody 50 years from now who will probably say, that Thomas Blottenberger guy, I was a young person and he was in his 30s or 40s. He helped me in this way. And if that person carries it on, that's a lot more than how much money you made. Nobody's going to care how
Yeah.
much money you made and invested.
Exactly. Well, and
Thomas,
that's why last thing to say about that real quick is just you can make a lot of money and lose your soul, or you can make a difference and gain your soul and make a lot of money. And it's really important if you want life to work as powerfully as possible to figure out if you're not there, figure out how to get in that latter category instead of the former.
absolutely. Make an impact. I found in my life that the money always ended up being there somehow. But when I chased it, I wasn't happy. Just go make a great
Yep.
impact and the money will be there. So I made a rule. This is 20 years ago in my business before I sold it. When I would get a wholesale order, in the very beginning, I was new. I'd go to a trade show, I'd get a wholesale order, $5,000. And the first thing I would do is quickly calculate how much profit I made. And then I get a 10,000, I'd calculate and get all excited. And then one day I said, why don't I stop doing that? The profit's going to be
Yep.
there. I'm going to make thousands of dollars a week, and then it became a day and all this stuff in net profit. But I got to stop calculating it. And you know what? I'll see it at the monthly meeting that we have with our financials, and that's how it was.
Yep.
I stopped chasing the profit. I knew if I did the right thing, if I responded to my customer's email, if I made sure we shipped out right away, and I followed up with them, made sure they were happy, hey, money was there.
Yeah.
That's what you're saying.
I
Make
love
an
it.
impact, do good things, the money will be there.
Well, it's like you gave up trying to control those numbers, right? You had the awareness. Oh yeah, if we do this, it's going to work out. And you gave up like the exact dollar amount of control that okay, yeah, sweet. It's so good. It's a perfect example of that. That is where the power is, the awareness, and then just taking actions inside of that, not trying to iron fist hold everything.
So if you're listening to this podcast or watching on YouTube or wherever you see it, if you can relate to these things, if you want to stop chasing money and you want to maybe make more money without ironically, without chasing it that way, get a hold of Thomas Blottenberger. He shared a few minutes ago his Instagram and his email. Say it one more time, Thomas.
Yeah, Instagram is at Mr. Mr. Blottenberger. So that's at Mr. Blottenberger. And then the email is Thomas at theriskreward
Thomas, thanks for being here with me. I look forward to having or hearing that you've impacted people who've listened to this. So if you listen to this and you use Thomas and years later you remember, send me a message and let me know how it went. Thanks, Thomas.
All right, thank you.